What kind of damage does that do, actually? The idea that everyone can kick out of everything, or in a big match like this, it's just nonstop kickouts out of brutal moves. I mean, these guys look like they were banged up really badly at the end of this.
Yeah, they were.
Because they were.
It's amazing. They both beat the shit out of each other for real and managed to make everything fake at the same time. It's stunning. There's different effects. The effect immediately on the match that followed it was, how you going to follow it? What else are they going to do to? And I mean, again, we're talking about the end of a 5-hour show. And I'm sure they didn't show a lot of restraint in the underneath matches either. But the immediate effect for the people in the building, they still came to see that show and they're still going to like the main event. But how much can you scream and how much energy do you have? And also, how shocking could they make anything, or surprising could they make anything, or just what could they do to get the people up into their match following all of that hadn't already been done to take the edge off of it in some form. And I can say they could actually perform the shit really more believably and correctly and more psychologically literate or sensical. And that would be one thing. And you still can. I'm not saying the people just walked out after that, but it takes the edge off what apparently New Japan considered its main event, or elsewise they'd have put the other match on last. So you're disrespectful.
The other match was on last.
No, that's what I'm saying. It takes the edge off what New Japan considered their main event, or they would have put the Omega and Osprey match on last. When they went out and did all that stuff, even if the people still liked the main event, it took some of the edge, some of the pop off. It just naturally has to when there's almost nothing left. And then you ask what effect. It doesn't necessarily have an effect on the next show. It doesn't necessarily have an effect on next month. Think about this. If we were talking 20 years ago, we'd be saying, oh my God, can you believe that the guy kicked out of whatever the fuck that they kicked out of 5 times last week? Or can we be saying, well, they had a big angle where they had a backstage fight and holy shit, this will get some people talking. But now 20 years later, they have 4 every week on every show. So it's a cumulative effect of just showing people that, okay, in a wrestling context, human beings can survive this. and there'll be no ill consequences for anybody from it. And if you see that enough, and like here in this country, as we've said, the table is useless. The table is fucking useless every week, every show, multiple times. Who gives a shit? Means nothing. All the stuff that means the attack in the parking lot, the attack in the backstage area, the fucking anything that's overdone means nothing. And what they're doing there is the equivalent of overdoing angles with overdoing wrestling moves. How the fuck many angles and finishes could you have got out of? They perpetrated most of this stuff amazingly. By the luck of idiots and fools, they didn't paralyze themselves. Most of the shit looked good, except for some of the wild flips where they just went past each other and, pretended. But at some point, you've got to say, okay, how can the human being and the human body not be defeated by this? And then in that case, are they going to buy the next guy's finish? Are they going to buy the next angle we try to do? Or what do we got to do to hurt this guy for him to come back for revenge? Literally goddamn set him on fire? That's the problem. Like the old Roy Shire thing. He told Stevens and Patterson, don't have a match like that again. It was too good. You guys are going to leave next month, but I got to promote here for the rest of my life. How are you going to follow it? There's at some point you get there, don't you?
Well, we shall see. We know Omega's banged up. Osprey, boy. I mean, he's a young guy. He's got to be hurting.
And that's another thing. Didn't this guy, Kenny just got finished having everything from his nose to his toes, repositioned or sewed back up, all these injuries, and he goes out there and does that? Again, why does New Japan as a company want that? Because where are they going to find any fucking moron that will do this or more in 2 years? How are they going to follow it? So anyway, yeah, I see his appeal to a segment of people who don't give a fuck about wrestling. And boy, in that New Japan environment and on their big shows with their presentation and whatever the fuck else they do to produce him or ride herd over him, he looks like a big star in a video game. So I can see why some people would like that. It didn't change my opinion of him. And this, Jesus Christ, I don't even know what to say about the match. If, like I said, it's an NBA dunk contest. If you just are allowed to do whatever you can fucking do with no rules under the parameter of no game and with the opponents either standing by idly or actively helping you, yeah, you can put a lot of shit together.
For the record, he wouldn't be the star in any video game that I play.
Well, I don't know who the cast of most of those video games are. But what do you know, Brian, about what's going on in the world of the Arcadian Vanguard Network and the wrestling news this week?
Another very exciting week for the Arcadian Vanguard Podcast Network. Get information about all the shows on Twitter at Superpodcasts or on Facebook at facebook.com/Arcadian Vanguard. A few notes. Of course, subscribe to the wrestling news and every morning get caught up with all the wrestling news with our free daily morning wrestling newscast. Look for Arcadian Vanguard's The Wrestling News wherever you find your favorite podcast, or subscribe and download directly at thewrestlingnews.com. Also want to make mention of Shut Up and Wrestle with Brian Solomon. I will be the guest on next week's show. 2 hours plus of me and Brian Solomon talking about everything and nothing. Check that out and go through the archives today. SUAWpod.com. Look for Shut Up and Wrestle with Brian Solomon wherever you find your favorite podcasts. Like I said, I'll be on next week's episode. And of course, the 605 Super Podcast, The Mothership! Yeah, it wasn't a good one. Go through the archive today at 605pod.com. We're working on something. Stay tuned. And go through the archive at 605pod.com. Available wherever you find your favorite podcasts. The Mothership.
Stay tuned.
Stay tuned.